All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, I'm going to be talking about tomorrow's action as well as the Monday night affair in the National Football League for week number 3. For this past Thursday night, I did say Carolina 30, Houston 19, and it ended up being Carolina 24, Houston 9, as that Panthers defense was just simply too much for the Texans offense. But with that said, we've got some good games on tap for tomorrow, as well as the Monday night affair. And I'm going to start off with the Washington football team traveling to take on the Buffalo Bills. Now, both of these teams come into this contest with a record of 1-1. And for the Bills, I really think that they found their sea legs last week because if you look back on it, they really let one go in week number 1 when they fell at home to Pittsburgh. And like they got back and they flexed their muscles last week versus the Miami Dolphins. More importantly, their defense. And I think you're going to see two good defenses in this one. Of course, Washington and Buffalo. Now, for Washington, they've had some extra time heading into this contest after their come from behind victory on Thursday Night Football in week number 2 versus the Giants. And they have to be confident in the youngster Tyler Heineke at quarterback. And he's going to have his hands full because this Bills defense is a lot better than the Giants defense that he faced. But speaking of defenses, you talk about this Washington pass rush, and they can get after quarterbacks. And I know that Josh Allen is mobile, but he's going to have his hands full, which means Buffalo's going to have to run the football with Devin Singletary early on in this contest to open things up. And if you're Buffalo, you look at that game film from the Giants game, and the Giants did have success with Saquon Barkley versus this Washington defense. So I think that's going to be a recipe for them there. And because of that, I'm going to take Buffalo at home by the score of 27-17. Now, you're going to have the 1-1 Chicago Bears clashing with the 1-1 Cleveland Browns. And for Chicago in this one, no Andy Dalton, which means that rookie quarterback Justin Fields is going to get his first start. And it was going to come sooner rather than later anyway. But for Justin Fields, coming back to the state of Ohio, I know that he played his college ball at Ohio State. He's going to have to go up against a Browns pass rush led by Myles Garrett that could make life tough for the youngster. So this is going to be potentially be baptism by fire. But on the flip side for Cleveland, I love the way that they're running the football with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It was their recipe for success last year. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think you're going to get a heavy dose of that combo in this one. Because of that, I'm going to take Cleveland at home by the score of 31-20. Now you're going to have the 1-1 Baltimore Ravens traveling to take on the winless Detroit Lions. Now, Baltimore comes into this contest favored by 7.5 points after their come from behind victory last Sunday night at home versus the Kansas City Chiefs in arguably what could have been the game of the year so far. The bottom line is I know that the Ravens are going to have some guys out for this contest, but they still have Lamar Jackson. And if you're Lamar Jackson at quarterback, you're sitting back and looking and seeing what Jimmy Garoppolo did to this Lions defense in week number 1. You saw what Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense did to them on Monday Night Football. So if you're Lamar, you're definitely licking your chops for this one. You look at the Lions and under first-year head coach Dan Campbell, their game, they're fighty, they're feisty, they'll put up an effort, and they're very physical. But it's not enough for them to win games because the bottom line is the talent is not there. Baltimore is the better team, and because of that, I am going to take the Ravens on the road by the score of 34-23. Now in Nashville, it's an AFC South clash. You're going to have the winless Colts traveling to take on the 1-1 Tennessee Titans. And for Indy, they had their first 2 games of the season at home, and they lost both of them. But their losses hurt, but they don't hurt from the standpoint that they were against NFC opponents. They lost to both the Seahawks and Rams. But now it's time to get into that AFC schedule. More importantly, that divisional schedule. Carson Wentz was really banged up last week. I was shocked to find out that he's going to be ready to go with 2 bum ankles. But you know what? The Colts are simply desperate right now. However, on the flip side, the Tennessee Titans have to feel good about themselves with their come from behind win last week on the road versus the Seattle Seahawks. And for the Titans, they got back to basics because I know that they have Julio Jones and AJ Brown at wide receiver and they can get the ball down the field. But it comes down to their workhorse. And I'm talking about Derrick Henry at running back. And you saw what happened when he got 30 carries last week as the Seattle Seahawks defense simply could not stop him. And the thing is, I know that the Colts are going to try to line up at the line of scrimmage and try to stop Henry, but it's going to be important for Mike Vrabel to continuously give him the ball. And at some point, he's going to break one loose. Now, on the flip side, this Titans defense going up against Carson Wentz, and it just has not been right for Carson Wentz for a very long time. I know Frank Reich, the Colts head coach, is trying to get him on track, but it's going to be another long day for the Colts and Carson Wentz. And thus, I'm going to take Tennessee at home by the score of 27-16. Now, at Arrowhead, you're going to have the 1-1 Los Angeles Chargers getting it on with the 1-1 Kansas City Chiefs. And both of these teams left week number 2 feeling like, you know what, they should have won. And if you go back and look at the Chargers' loss to the Dallas Cowboys, they did everything except win. And the same thing could be said about Kansas City as they fell to Baltimore on Sunday Night Football. But the bottom line is this: the Chargers always find a way to play the Chiefs tough. But the bottom line is they always find a way to wilter coming down the stretch. And I think Justin Herbert is going to have a solid bounce back game, but it's not going to be enough. I look at Patrick Mahomes, and I expect Patrick Mahomes to have a big day against this Chargers defense. Thus, I'm going to take Kansas City at home by the score of 34-19. Now, in Foxborough, you're going to have the 1-1 New Orleans Saints taking on the 1-1 New England Patriots. And the bottom line is one of the biggest questions coming into this game: which Jameis Winston are we going to get? Are we going to get the Jameis Winston from week number 1? Or are we going to get the Jameis Winston from last week against Carolina, where he looked like the Jameis Winston of old? And the bottom line is, if you go back and look at when Jameis Winston had the big game in week number 1 versus Green Bay, New Orleans ran the football effectively. And I think that's going to be important. They've got to get their running game going against this Patriots defense. But on the flip side, we have seen Bill Belichick over the years have the ability to confuse quarterbacks. And we saw what he did to a youngster last week in Zach Wilson with the Jets. And I guarantee you, he's probably got something good cooked up for Jameis Winston tomorrow. On the flip side, for this Patriots offense, Mac Jones has 2 games under his belt as a Patriot starting quarterback. He's 1-1. You see the maturity beyond his years. Why? Because I keep saying it, that system in Alabama is very similar to the system that he's in with the Patriots right now. And, you know, when you watch Mac Jones play, he's not trying to do too much. He's playing within the realm of the system. If it's there, he's taking it. If it's not there, he's not taking it. He's not forcing the football. He's living to see another day. And you know what? That mentality is perfect for this game because I think the Saints are going to bring it and make life tough for the Patriots. But I'm going to take New England at home by the score of 27-20. Now at the Meadowlands, you're going to have a battle of winless teams as the New York Football Giants host the Atlanta Falcons. And for the Giants, they have had some extra time to lick their wounds following their heartbreaking loss on Thursday Night Football in week number 2 versus Washington. For the Giants, quarterback Daniel Jones probably won't play any better than he did last week. And that's scary, and that's scary in a bad way, because if you think about it, the one thing that has plagued Jones throughout his brief NFL career is his inability to protect the ball and turn the football over. So you look at it, I think ball security is still a key for Daniel Jones going forward, as is the accuracy. But I think the Giants defense has to find a way to step up because they got shredded by Teddy Bridgewater in week number 1, and then they got taken apart by Tyler Heineke last week. The Giants simply don't have a pass rush. And even though that a veteran quarterback like Matt Ryan is on the downside of his NFL career, if the Giants don't get to him, he can pick them apart all day long tomorrow at the Meadowlands. But if you're New York, you have to like what you see as week by week running back Saquon Barkley is starting to get his legs under him, and that's important for this offense. I know that the Giants do have some injuries on that offensive line, but they've got to get Saquon going, get that running game going to take some pressure off of Daniel Jones. Jason Garrett has to do a better job calling plays as well for the offense, and this defense has to get after Matt Ryan. I think you're going to see a more spirited effort from the Giants in this one. It's not going to be an easy game, as neither one of these teams wants to get to that dreaded 0-3 start. But I think the Giants find a way to squeak past Atlanta with the 23-20 win. Now at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, you're going to have the 1-1 Cincinnati Bengals taking on the 1-1 Pittsburgh Steelers in an AFC North clash. And for Pittsburgh, their defense got picked apart last week by Derek Carr and the Raiders, and they were dealing with a lot of injuries, most notably TJ Watt. He went out with that groin injury, and he's going to be unavailable for this game. And that's big because Watt is Pittsburgh's best pass rusher. You look at quarterback Joe Burrow, and he played okay last week versus the Bears, but the turnovers got the best of him. And if you're Pittsburgh, you want to try to go out there and get after that youngster and throw him off of his game. Now, I know that Pittsburgh has a talent at the wide receiver position, but I like what I'm seeing so far out of the rookie at running back for the Steelers in Najee Harris. And I think he needs to have a big game tomorrow in order for Pittsburgh to get the win. Pittsburgh comes into this game favored by just 3 points, and rightfully so, because the Bengals are going to bring it. But I'm going to take the Steelers at home by the score of 27-23. Now in Jacksonville, you're going to have the winless Jaguars hosting the 2-0 Arizona Cardinals. And for Jacksonville, they are a 7.5-point underdog heading into this contest, and for good reasons. Jacksonville has not won a game since week number 1 of the 2020 season. We saw this team get picked apart last week at home by the Denver Broncos, and it's not going to get any easier for them tomorrow. You have a rookie quarterback and Trevor Lawrence going up against this pass rush of the Cardinals that includes the likes of J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. It's not going to be easy for the youngster. On the flip side, for Jacksonville defensively, they have to find a way to contain Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. And all I could say to them is good luck. Jacksonville comes into this game as a 7.5-point underdog, and rightfully so, as I'm going to take Arizona by the score of 34-20. Now, in the Mile High City, you're going to have the 2-0 Denver Broncos hosting the 0-2 New York Jets. Denver comes into this contest favored by 10.5 points, and the home fans will finally get to see the Orange Crush because Denver's first 2 games were on the road. And we've seen a trend so far for Denver. Their defense has shut down a so-so quarterback in Daniel Jones, and then they shut down a rookie in Trevor Lawrence. Now they get another rookie to face tomorrow in Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson had his hands full with the Patriots last week, and it's not going to get any easier with this Denver defense that is led by veteran outside linebacker Von Miller. And of course, Vic Fangio, the Broncos head coach, he made his mark in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball, cooking up great defensive schemes. And I guarantee you, he has one in store for the rookie tomorrow. This is a bad season for the Jets, and it's going to get worse as I take Denver at home tomorrow by the score of 31-14. Now in Vegas, you're going to have the 2-0 Raiders hosting the 1-1 Miami Dolphins. Both of these teams come into this game banged up, but Miami is a little bit more banged up than Las Vegas is coming into this game. No Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback as he is out with the rib injury. Big win for the Raiders last week in their psyche as they went on the road and knocked off the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Derek Carr is looking like the Derek Carr that he was during his MVP season. Oh, pardon me, when he should have been MVP until he got hurt. But nonetheless, I look at this Raiders team. They started off strong last year and they wilted. I think this is another good start for them, and I don't see them wilting as much if they can keep Carr healthy. But I'm going to take the silver and black in this one by the score of 27-17. Now, the big one that a lot of people are focusing on tomorrow will take place in Inglewood as you have the 2-0 Los Angeles Rams hosting the 2-0 and defending Super Bowl champions in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people feel that both of these teams will meet in the postseason, and rightfully so. You think about it, you think about these lineups that both of these teams possess, and both of them not only have what it takes to meet each other in the playoffs, but they also have what it takes to possibly win the Super Bowl. And of course, the Bucs are the defending champs. But for the Rams, you look at it, the Rams went to Tampa last year, and I know last year was last year, but they did beat the Bucs. And a big reason for that is the athletes that they have in their secondary, led by Jalen Ramsey. It's going to be important for this Bucs, pardon me, for this Rams pass rush to get after quarterback Tom Brady. And this Bucs offensive line is going to have their hands full with Aaron Donald. But what do you do with a guy like Aaron Donald? You got to throw him off with screens and short passes. Never let him get into a rhythm as a pass rusher. But for LA, they do have athletes at every position, or pardon me, at every level of their defense, which, is important because you look at the talent that Tampa Bay has at the skill positions with the likes of OJ Howard at tight end, Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans, and so many others at wide receiver. And of course, Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones coming out of that backfield. Matthew Stafford looks like a different quarterback, a much more confident quarterback now that he is with the Rams and no longer the Lions. And these are the kind of games that Matt Stafford was brought to Los Angeles for. But on the flip side, you look at these seasoned Bucs, they feel like, they're just scratching the surface with their potential after their Super Bowl win last year. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair between two very good teams, but I'm going to take Los Angeles at home by the score of 31-27. Now in Minneapolis, you're going to have the winless Vikings hosting the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks. And for Minnesota, this is their home opener after a pair of heartbreaking losses on the road, first to Cincinnati and then last week to Arizona. Now, Seattle comes into this game licking their wounds as well, as their defense simply could not stop Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans last week. I look at this contest, it's going to come down to field position and protecting the football. And after being close in the first 2 weeks, I think some home cooking will allow the Vikings to get their first win of the season. That's going to take Minnesota by the score of 27-24. Now, tomorrow night on Sunday Night Football, you're going to have the 1-1 Green Bay Packers traveling to the Bay Area to take on the 2-0 San Francisco 49ers. And for the 49ers, this is their first home game of the season as well. If you look at Aaron Rodgers' last couple of trips to the Bay Area, they have not gone well because San Francisco basically has come out like gangbusters. They put Green Bay in a hole early and made this Packers team one-dimensional. Defensively, the Packers started off slow last week on Monday Night Football versus the Lions before they got their sea legs. And they got to start off stronger against a 49er team that is very confident right now, especially in their running game, in spite of all of the injuries. But I look at this Niners defense led by Nick Bosa, and if this Packers offensive line cannot find a way to slow him down, it's going to be a very long night for number 12 for the green and gold. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair. I keep saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play some of his best football this year because he knows that he has Trey Lance looking right over his shoulder. And because of that, I'm going to take San Fran at home by the score of 27-23. And finally, on Monday night, you're going to have the 1-1 Philadelphia Eagles traveling to take on the 1-1 Dallas Cowboys. And the winner of this contest could find themselves in sole possession of first place in the NFC East when it's all said and done. For Dallas, this is their home opener. And most importantly, quarterback Dak Prescott is starting to look like the Dak Prescott of old, as he, is showing no ill signs of that horrific leg injury that he suffered early on last season. You look at this Dallas defense, they are showing signs of improvement, and that's important because they have to go out there and contain Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts, make him one-dimensional, and really find a way to slow down this offense. I look at Dallas right now. They have a lot of confidence. They played Tampa Bay hard, and they played well enough to win in week number 1 versus the Bucs, and they got that win last week, their first win of the season on the road in LA versus the Chargers. And I think Dallas will be able to feed off of that, and thus I'm going to take the Cowboys by the score of 31-20. So, folks, those are my picks for week number 3 here in the 2021 NFL season. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.